So I'm back with the second half. I'll try to make it brief because I know that I kind of went over in the last video. So HR management's roles. Well, what are the different roles that we can see in strategic HR management? Well, as we know, there's an administrative role to HR management, which has to do with clerical and administrative support, such as payroll, benefits work. Technology is now changing how HR services are delivered. We'll talk about HRM in a minute. And of course, outsourcing HR services are also done to reduce HR staffing costs. Then there's also the role of operational employee advocate, where here we are seen as champions for employee concerns. We manage employee crises, we respond to employee complaints, we deal with conflict resolution, etc. How have the roles of HR management changed? Well, we can see that it's basically an inverted pyramid. Before of HR management, 50% of the work that was done was administrative, 30% was operational and employee advocate, and only 20% was strategic. Now, there is a shift in which we are preparing for 60% of HR management work being strategic, 30%, this will remain roughly the same, will be operational and employee advocate, and 10% will be administrative. The strategic role is basically being able to have a voice and being able to contribute to organizational results. So we become strategic HR managers by focusing on developing HR programs that will help the organization to achieve its roles, its objectives. We are also involved in strategic planning of the organization in terms of HR from the beginning. We also participate in decision-making processes when faced with mergers, acquisitions, downsizing, etc. We are also part of redesigning work processes and organizational processes, and we are also a part of the financial results of HR activities such as accounting, document, etc. CEOs want people who actually understand this strategic role, and there is an increase in basically not recruiting people who do not understand this as a strategic role. So how do we see the shift from operational to the strategic transformation, where we can see that operational is the employee focus and strategic is organizational focus. I can really summarize this to be the same thing as shift from personnel or labor management to human resource management, where we are seeing that operational is just basically managing and controlling employees, and strategic is basically being able to utilize the workforce in a way that develops them to their highest potential and thus helps the organization reach its organizational goals. So what is the HR technology that we have available to us? Well, we have the HRMs, as are called here, or EHRM, which are integrated systems that provide information used by HR managers in decision-making. The benefits of HRM is, of course, there's much more efficiency in compiling HR data, and of course, the availability for effective HR strategic planning. The uses of HRM are many, from administrative, where we are looking to automate payroll, benefit activities, tracking of different aspects of HR management, such as affirmative action, workflow processes where we can increase access to HR information, employee self-service, reducing HR costs, like for example, the employees being able to request their vacations online through the company's intranet, for example. There's also the benefits of being able to use digital bulletin boards where we can be constantly updating the information that is available, understanding the information that is needed. The information that people have access to will be different based on the department that they belong to and the authority that they have. For example, a manager may have access to more data than the receptionist, for example. And this is, for example, the employee self-service aspect. And then, of course, extended linkage. To what degree and how long will people have access to this information? And now ethics and HR management, this is the last part of the class today, basically has to do with being able to ensure that as an organization, you are working in an ethical way. Organizations that have high ethical standards are more profitable. They reach their strategic goals. They are viewed more positively by all of their stakeholders. Remember, stakeholders are not just the shareholders, the people who have bought stocks. Stakeholders are all of those groups and individuals who are directly affected by the operations of our organization, be that the government, the local citizens, etc. And these organizations are also better able to retain the top talent and attract top talent to their workforce. Now, of course, we have to think about how ethics are viewed and what in one country may be deemed as acceptable, in another country may not be deemed as acceptable. So there has been some regulation put into practice in order to be able to kind of standardize internationally what is ethical, what is corruption, etc. For example, the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act, the FCPA, basically was established in the United States, and it protects US firms from engaging in bribery and other practices in other countries. One of the most widely popular ethical scandal that ever existed is the Enron scandal that happened in the early 2000s. You guys can take a look here at this video that I've posted for you. Basically, it was an ethical accounting scandal. And what did they do? Well, year after year, they were actually losing money, and they were in the red. And instead of being upfront about their issues, they would clean their books or cook the books, as is said, in order to make it appear as though they were actually profitable, and their income looked a lot higher than it was. What happened? Well, obviously, it reached the point where it was no longer sustainable, and the system entirely broke down. There were people sent to court. There were many acquittals. There were many investors that lost money, and there was a huge scandal and lots of lawsuits coming out of that. Take a look at this video for more information about this Enron scandal. So what are the business ethics and HR management consequences? Well, we can think of when we develop our company's values, or we establish the ethical code of conduct or the business ethics within our organization. This will affect areas of HR such as our staffing, training programs, labor relations, etc., which will have a number of consequences. Of course, this will help us, and the consequences are positive. This will help us to be able to retain and attract talent. There is reduced turnover, decreased absenteeism. People are committed to their organization. They feel good about working in that organization. And there's higher job performance and ethical decision making. So, for example, what are the kind of elements that are included in the ethical program or code of conduct within a company or an ethical business values program? Well, first, it's the written code of conduct or code of ethics that is established for that specific company, which every employee gets a copy of. Then there are also continuous training programs and workshops taking place for employee training on ethics. Then, of course, the HR managers, when confronted by ethical situations that their employees come to them with, they are advising them. They are a figure or a mentor figure that is going to be helping them and guiding them through these issues. And of course, there's also the aspect of being able to report ethical problems in a confidential way. So, for example, how would we transition from a legal question to an ethical question? So, for example, does the behavior or the result of our behaviors meet all applicable laws, regulations, blah, blah, blah? This, taken one step further, would be, does the behavior meet both organizational standards and professional standards of ethical behavior? So I'm not just looking to comply with the law and that's it, so I don't get sued. I'm actually looking to go one step further to ensure that we are operating in an ethical way. So more examples of HR related ethical misconduct activities. For example, when it has to do with compensation, well, saying that you worked more hours than you actually did. Falsifying expense reports. Oh, you can put this on your company credit card. Nobody will know. Personal bias in performance appraisals. Well, this is my buddy, so I'm going to tell my buddy that he does a great job, even though he doesn't. Accepting personal gifts. This is considered corruption from vendors. Then there are also other types of ethical issues with employee relations, like, for example, executives emailing false public information to customers and vendors, stealing organizational assets, intentionally violating safety regulations. And then there's also issues to do with staffing, like being discriminatory or acting with favoritism, sexual harassment, etc. So there's actually the Sarbanes-Oxley Act, SOX, which basically has been created to reduce the likelihood of illegal and ethical behaviors by having a written code of ethics and conduct standards, providing continuous ethical training, establishing a confidential reporting system for ethical misconduct. So a whistleblower can actually report in a confidential way what is happening, providing protection for that whistleblower, and of course, supporting HR management's role as a keeper and the voice of organizational ethics. So this brings us to the end of today's class. For next session, there is no readings from the textbook. Please read all of these different articles here. And I will be in touch with you very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.